In today's fast-paced world where distractions are endless and instant gratification is just a click away, many of us find ourselves trapped in cycles of laziness, procrastination, and addiction. Whether it's the pull of social media, the allure of fast food, the habit of excessive drinking, or the escape offered by online gaming, these dependencies often undermine our potential, leaving us feeling unfulfilled, anxious, and stuck. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to believe that we are powerless against these habits, that our impulses are too strong and our will too weak. But what if there was a way out of this cycle? What if we could learn to take back control over our lives, over our decisions, and over our desires? The answer, perhaps surprisingly, lies in the ancient philosophy of Stoicism. Stoicism is not just a set of abstract ideas, it's a practical framework for living a life of virtue, clarity, and inner peace, regardless of external circumstances. The Stoics, including Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca, faced their own personal challenges, from political turmoil to personal loss. Yet they maintained a remarkable sense of composure, control, and purpose. Their philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control and to accept what we cannot. And by doing so, we can cultivate the resilience and discipline necessary to overcome our modern-day challenges, including addiction and procrastination. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the understanding that we cannot control the external world, other people, the events around us, or even our natural impulses. What we can control is our internal world, our thoughts, our reactions, and our actions. This distinction between what is in our power and what is not is essential in understanding how to tackle procrastination and addiction. Often, when we feel ourselves slipping into old habits, it's because we've let external stimuli or impulses control our inner state. We may feel the pull of social media, the temptation of junk food, or the desire to escape into an online game, and without thinking, we give in. The Stoics would suggest that we pause at that moment of impulse, recognize it for what it is, and remind ourselves that we are not slaves to our desires. We have the power to choose. The Stoic practice of mindfulness, the ability to pause, reflect, and choose a deliberate response, becomes a powerful tool in overcoming procrastination and addiction. Rather than acting on automatic, habitual impulses, we can train ourselves to respond with greater awareness and intentionality. When faced with a distracting urge, whether to check social media or indulge in unhealthy eating, Epictetus would advise us to ask ourselves, is this action in line with my values? Does it align with my long-term goals? By consciously reflecting on the consequences of our actions, we can begin to break free from the cycle of impulse-driven behavior and cultivate a more thoughtful, deliberate approach to our choices. One of the key lessons the Stoics teach is that true freedom comes from mastering our desires, not from indulging in them. Many of our modern-day addictions, whether to food, alcohol, or online entertainment, are based on the belief that these things will bring us happiness or relieve us from discomfort. Yet the Stoics understood that the pursuit of pleasure, in and of itself, leads to more dissatisfaction, as each indulgence only fuels our cravings. For example, when we turn to social media for validation or distraction, we may temporarily feel pleasure, but soon after we feel emptier than before. Similarly, when we indulge in excessive drinking or overeating, the short-term pleasure is followed by guilt or discomfort. The Stoic response to this is not to deny ourselves pleasure, but to practice moderation and self-discipline. This is where the concept of voluntary discomfort comes in. The Stoics would deliberately put themselves in situations of discomfort, not to punish themselves, but to build resilience and self-control. For example, they might take cold baths, go without food for a period, or refrain from seeking luxuries, all in an effort to train their minds and bodies to resist the constant pull of indulgence. This practice teaches us that discomfort is not something to avoid at all costs, but something to embrace as a tool for growth. In modern terms, we can apply this idea to overcoming addictions and cravings. Instead of automatically reaching for our phone, food, or drink, we can practice small acts of voluntary discomfort. Perhaps we decide to turn off our phone for an hour, skip a meal, or go for a walk instead of indulging in a game or a drink. These small, deliberate acts of resistance help us build the mental strength to resist more harmful urges. Over time, we realize that the discomfort we seek to avoid is often temporary, and our cravings become easier to manage. The Stoics also taught us that life is full of things that are beyond our control, and that worrying about these things is a waste of energy. Much of our addiction to social media, for instance, is driven by fear of missing out, FOMO, the anxiety that we are falling behind, or that we are missing important information or experiences. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is a powerful reminder that external events and other people's actions are not within our control. We cannot control what others post on social media or whether we are included in every social gathering. What we can control is how we respond to these external pressures. Instead of falling into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, we can focus on living in accordance with our own values and goals. A useful Stoic practice for combating FOMO is to regularly remind ourselves of the impermanence of all things. The Stoics often spoke about the fleeting nature of life and the importance of living in the present moment. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If we constantly fill our minds with comparisons and worries about what we are missing out on, we are allowing external forces to shape our happiness. But if we cultivate contentment with the present moment, we free ourselves from the need for external validation or stimulation. This is key to breaking free from the addictive cycle of social media and other distractions. One of the most profound teachings of Stoicism is the idea of amor fati, which translates to love of fate. This idea encourages us to embrace all aspects of life, including the difficult and uncomfortable ones, as opportunities for growth. Instead of wishing things were different, we learn to accept them as they are and use them as tools for self-improvement. In the context of addiction and procrastination, this means accepting that we will face moments of weakness, but rather than beating ourselves up over them, we view them as opportunities to practice self-control and resilience. If we slip up and give in to a craving or procrastinate, we do not need to despair. Instead, we can reflect on the moment, learn from it, and commit to doing better next time. Another Stoic principle that is incredibly useful in overcoming addiction is the idea of the dichotomy of control. According to the Stoics, there are two things in life: things we can control and things we cannot. Everything external, from the behavior of others to the events in the world, falls into the category of things we cannot control. Our thoughts, actions, and responses are the only things within our power. By focusing our energy on what we can control and accepting what we cannot, we free ourselves from unnecessary anxiety and frustration. For example, we cannot control the fact that social media platforms exist or that they are designed to capture our attention. What we can control is how we choose to engage with them. Similarly, we cannot control the presence of junk food or alcohol in our environment, but we can control whether we choose to indulge in them. This principle is incredibly empowering because it shifts our focus from the external to the internal. It reminds us that, ultimately, we are the ones who decide how we respond to our environment. In conclusion, Stoicism offers a powerful antidote to the modern-day struggles of procrastination, laziness, and addiction. By focusing on what is within our control, practicing self-reflection, building resilience through voluntary discomfort, and embracing the present moment, we can break free from the patterns that hold us back. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from mastering our inner world. By applying their wisdom to our daily lives, we can cultivate the discipline, focus, and clarity needed to overcome our habits and live more meaningful, purposeful lives. It's not about achieving perfection, but about making steady progress, one thoughtful decision at a time.